Glad to be here to talk some sports with my good friend Terry. I know he's got some consultations going on in his league and everything. I was glad to get away with a victory. That's right, I got away with a victory. Tom Brady actually gave me a whole lot of points, and I think I got like 25 points. So he was one of the high scoring quarterbacks in the league. Ravens defense did not do all that good for me, so I think they only got me like about 3 points. But I had some surprising players that did really well and gave me some points as well. So I was pleasantly pleased and have a victory under my hat. So I opened the season with a victory, which is more than I can say for the team that I root for, the Minnesota Vikings, who went down and took an L in their first game. But that's just the way things happen in the world of sports. Sometimes your teams win, sometimes they lose. I did see that, if I remember correctly, the Carolina Panthers came away with a victory. I believe that was against the Jets. So definitely that's some of the things that are going on and things along those lines. So I was glad to see some victories in the world of sports. Like I said, I got my friend Terry here. We're going to talk about that sports thing and how that all worked out. So I was glad that I got that victory in the league. It took at least one victory. And right now, at least for the beginning of the season, I'm sitting in first place. So first place in my division. I think that I'm sitting in first place because of points scored and things along those lines. So I do know that there is another person in the league that also has one. What happens sometimes, you have those things happen where you hit the wrong button, but that's all right. We just go keep on rolling and all of that. But it was, like I said, ironically, if I remember correctly, and I was looking at the league, and that's actually what I was trying to pull up in the fantasy league that we have. I want to say that my brother scored a victory, and he's in my division. So I think we're both sitting at 1-0. So if I remember correctly, that is who scored that victory in the league. So like I said, I do have a victory, and I'm looking down here in the Cylinder Hendricks division. Giving you the Blues is 1-0-0, and I wish a MF Wood, which is my brother's team, they are also sitting at 1-0-0 also. And then the three other teams, Vice Squad, Carolina Eagles, and Tony's team, all took an L, so they're all sitting at 0-1. So, in most of the divisions, it looks like, half of the teams might have taken a victory, and half of them might have taken, or maybe in some cases more than half, took an L. So some of us are sitting at 1-0, and we'll see if we can improve on that and continue to have a winning record. I do see that some people are already dropping players and, picking up new players. So I might see about doing that with that great draft pick that I made, in that ironic pick that I had, and all of that. But I did see that in my first game, I won 94.75 to 51.75. So that was the final score after all the games came in. And like I said, Tom Brady gave me 25 points. Kareem Hunt gave me 10.75 points, and that is the running back for Cleveland. And Josh Jacobs gave me 12.25 points, and that was the team that beat the Baltimore Ravens, that being the Las Vegas team's running back. So he gave me a lot of points, and then I got some points. And I remember you told me that this was a player that you thought would do good and everything. But Nelson Aguilar gave me 9.25 points. Corey Davis, another one that I remember you said you felt good about, gave me 15.25 points. And Deontay Johnson gave me 7.25. I got 4 points from my tight end, George Kittle, and I got 8 points from Daniel Carson, the Las Vegas Raiders kicker, and all of that. And like I said, those Ravens only gave me 3 points. It's always interesting, Terry, when you look and see what players did and how they did, and what they could have done. I would not trade in my quarterback, but Daniel Jones did not do too bad as a backup, even though you get no points in our league for the backups in terms of like they're actually counting towards your score. But I do see that he got 14 points and only had one fumble loss. So since Deshaun Watson apparently is not playing for Houston these days and trying to do that whole sit-out thing, I might have to put him on the trading block. But Daniel does look like at least a feasible backup quarterback for that one game that Tom does not play and all of that, or if something happens to Tom. And then we got James White that he did not do all that well. He scored 4.5 points as the New England Patriots running back. And then, like I said, I don't even know why I picked up Blake Christensen, so he may be seriously on the trading blocks. But I was looking at the Buffalo wide receiver, and he didn't do too bad. He had 7.50 points. And just to look at my opponents and everything, and I want to hear how you're doing in the league. And of course, we're just going to talk about football in general. But I did see that, like I said, my Vikings took an L, but that's whose quarterback he had. My opponent had Kirk Cousins, and he didn't do too bad. He had 19 points even in that L. But as a Vikings fan, I was disappointed that they lost by a field goal to Cincinnati. So they lost by a big whopping field goal and all that. And he also had David Montgomery, who was a pretty good running back, and he gave him some pretty good point production. And he also had Cole Beasley. And he also had DJ Moore and Eric Ebron. I'm sure he was expecting Eric to do a little bit better than 0.25 points, and hopefully he'll come back and do better in other games. And then he had the Bears defense, and they actually had a negative in their defense and was like -1 points and all of that. And then for his place kicker, he had Ryan Santosa from Carolina. So like I said, the Panthers did beat the Jets. So I do know that my friend Zach is not too pleased about that, as he is a Jets fan, but at least he lives here in the Carolinas. So maybe he can forgive them since it was the hometown team that defeated them. So that's just a little bit about the game that I participated in. And like I said, I'm glad that we got that that win. Not wanting an L, and I don't want an L next week. As a matter of fact, I got to find out. I think that I'm the favorite next week because of Tom and some other things, but I got to see and make sure that I've got my lineup submitted. As a matter of fact, while we're talking, I might just go ahead and submit my lineup because I have not submitted my lineup. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now. So we're going to go ahead and start Tom Brady. He did a good job with it, so we're going to start him again. And I think that we're going to stick with Kareem and Josh Jacobs. I think we'll even stick with Nelson. And we're going to stick with Corey. He didn't do too bad. And I think that we're going to stick with, matter of fact, I think we're going to stick with everybody. I'm trying to think if I want to do any changes on my tight ends, since I do have some backup tight ends, but none of them did all that well. So
don't sit Kittle. Don't sit Kittle.
Don't sit Kittle. So I'm not going to sit Kittle. So, and then we're going to do Carlson, and we're going to do the Ravens defense. And hopefully they'll do better than that 3 points. They're supposed to be a tight defense, but
you got a really good team, Mark. You got a really good team.
Good. So we're going to go ahead and submit that lineup and put that in there. And hopefully that will be a good thing. And hopefully we'll get another win on next week that we can talk about. But how are things going in your world? I know that you've got some consultations to do. And how did you think about week one? Not just in fantasy, but in general football play? Because I saw some really good games and everything. I did watch that late night game on Monday and everything, and definitely thought that was some really good ball played by both of those teams. And I think I picked up a little bit of games, but I didn't actually watch that much on Sunday because I was doing an event on Sunday in Carrboro, but it was in front of and for a radio station that I'm part of, but it was also for a bar that is in that Carrboro area as well. So they did have their TVs on some games. As a matter of fact, I know one of the guys that I was working with, I thought that the guy was stopping the music. I called him to come and do his set and everything, and it turns out the guy was not stopping his music, and he was hoping that the team that was playing was going to go ahead and maybe get an L and everything, but that did not happen. So the team that he was hoping was going to get that L, he did not get it. So as he told me, he was more upset of not that I called him mistakenly to come and do his part, which he wound up not having to do at all. But what he wanted to happen football-wise, it did not happen. So I think he was more disappointed in the results of the game than anything else. So I do remember he was telling me that being the kind person that I was, I apologize for making that mistake. And then he proceeded to tell me, no, I'm more upset that that team went ahead and took that victory and all of that. Not really upset at you. I'm more upset at the fact that what I wanted to happen did not happen. And we do know that will happen sometimes. You'll be rooting for something. You'll be like, dang, I really wanted that to happen. And it didn't happen. But I'll try to remember which game that was. I want to say it might have been the Chiefs game that he was rooting for, and L did not happen. But I'm gonna go back and look at my scores and also reflect at what time we were doing that event, because I know it was in the evening time, like around 7:30 or 8 o'clock. So it was whatever the evening game was. And Patrick Mahomes plays for the Chiefs, right?
Yes.
It was because I think Patrick won, and he did not want Patrick to win. And actually, Patrick is one of the top 10 players because in the fantasy league that we're part of, the top 10 players are Kyle Murray from Arizona. Matter of fact, a lot of quarterbacks are in the top 10 positions. As a matter of fact, it looks like it's pretty much the top 6 are, a lot of the top are quarterbacks. I've seen at least the top 6, like I said, are quarterbacks. But we got Kyle Murray was the number 1 player with 29.0. Patrick Mahomes was number 2 with 28 points. Jameis Winston was number 3 with 28 points. Tom Brady, my quarterback, was number 4 with 25. And Jared Goff was number 5 with 25 as well. And Dak Prescott was number 6 with 25. Russell Wilson was number 7 with 25. Jalen Hurts was number 8 with 25. Number 9 was Matthew Stafford with 23. And then we finally get into something that is not a quarterback. So I was right. They were pretty much all quarterbacks except for the Arizona defense, which scored 22. So the top 9 players in the league that I am part of were all quarterbacks. So that is amazing. All those quarterbacks did really well and all of that. So definitely, it's always good to get a good, strong quarterback, I would think, in any draft. Would you agree with that? That it's always good to get that good, strong quarterback. And like I said, I know that the gentleman that I'm talking about, he was hoping that the Browns were going to get that victory, but no such luck. Patrick and them actually pulled off the victory, and his Browns did not win. That happens sometimes.
Yep.
So what about you? How is everything going? And what did you think of that first week of NFL football now that we're officially back into league play?
So since I've been doing fantasy for a while, it was very similar. Hold on.
Yeah.
Can you hear me more?
Yeah. Say what?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you. I heard you before, but
okay.
Yeah, I still hear you.
So it was I've been doing fantasy for a while. So now it's week 1 is always the same. You're always gonna have guys that come out of nowhere. So I was expecting out of 7 leagues, I think I won 3. Other 4, it was close. Some of them I got beat a little bit more than others. But I was just kind of like just filling it out. I just kind of wanted to see what players that I needed to keep on my team for waiver wires and what kind of players that was going to step up and I could keep for the rest of the year. So week 1, I kind of it's just a feel. I don't worry about my record in week 1. So, but football was really interesting. It was a lot of players that came out of nowhere, and which it happens every year. New players come up and step up.
Yep, you got those new players that step up, definitely, and the new players that are surprising you and all of that. I did see that we had a player that I don't know whether anybody had him in their league, but unfortunately he had a season-ending injury. So if you had Raheem Mostert on your team, then you might have to be going and looking for others because his campaign is over after just 4 snaps. The San Francisco 49ers running back actually announced earlier today that he's opted for season injury surgery following the injury that he had in Sunday's 41-33 win in Detroit. So definitely, he said he's consulted with multiple doctors and weighed his options, and he's decided that he's going to be having a season-ending surgery to repair his knees. So glad to see that he's going to try to work on repairing those knees and all of that. But definitely, if anybody's got him, then they're going to have to be definitely scrambling to try to get somebody to replace that particular running back, because that is one of those cases where things just ended abruptly for a running back very quickly. So were there any other injuries that caught your eyes and everything that you might have to make some adjustment for either your leagues or those leagues that you are consulting with?
Yes. So Ryan Fitzpatrick went down. I actually have Taylor Heineke on one of my leagues, and I need a quarterback. Because one of my leagues has the super flex where you can play a quarterback, but I didn't play a quarterback. So now with Taylor Heineke being able to start, I can have a higher ceiling. You see how 9 out of 10 top scores with quarterbacks. So you need quarterbacks. They're very important. So now that I have Taylor Heineke and he's a starter, I'm going to add him to my lineup. So Ryan Fitzpatrick going down with a hip injury actually helped me, but I felt bad for Ryan Fitzpatrick at the same time.
I hear you. There was also some news about, I don't know how people feel about it, but a political statement was made and everything, because definitely we had an amazing incident that happened in that Ravens game. And I know my friend Dean Geronimo is upset that the Ravens did not win. And like I said, I usually, in deference to him and in support of him, try to pick up the Ravens defense or something to do with the Ravens. And we took that L in the sense of what the defense did. But on that end, the Las Vegas Raiders defensive end had a very special Monday, as he became the first openly gay NFL player to be featured in a regular season game. So he was definitely starred in that thrilling 33-27 win that the Raiders had over the Ravens. And it was the first game with fans at Allegiant Stadium. And he produced a decisive strip sack on Ravens quarterback LeVar Jackson when the game went into overtime. That play set up the game-winning touchdown for the Raiders, as wide receiver Zay Jones caught Derek Carr's 31-yard pass. He said, "It was really special. I'm really happy that we got the win on the day that kind of made a little bit of history, which was really nice to do," Nassib told reporters. "Had a lot of people come before me in the LGBTQ community that helped me get to where I am. I'm super thankful for that. I can't wait to get to Pittsburgh next week and keep this thing going." So they've actually got a tough game going when they play against Pittsburgh. And earlier this year, the 28-year-old Nassib, who has played for 3 teams over 5 years in the NFL, became the first active player in the history of the league to announce that he is gay. Asked about his sack on Jackson, Nassib added, "The ball is everything. Getting turnovers is the make or break of a good defense. I was glad I could get the ball out in a really clutch situation." So definitely that's some things happening in the world of politics within sports. But I just wondering your thoughts about that. But it looks like he went out there and didn't worry about his orientation, or worry about his race, or worry about anything else. He went out there to get a job done. And it looks like he got the job done.
Yep. Your sexual orientation, your color, what you like to eat, what you like to do in your free time doesn't matter when you play football. It matters about getting the job done. So I'm pretty sure those players, nobody cares about his orientation other than respecting his prerogative. So that's his prerogative to do that. So it's about had a great game. So I think that's gonna open up avenues for people to quit being into other people's business and worried about what they do. It doesn't matter. He likes what he likes. I think that's fine. I'm okay with that. He had a great game. So the guy, is nothing you can say about him other than he had a fantastic game.
One of the other things that we saw was that after declining last season for the first time in 3 years, NFL viewership bounced back in the first week of the new season. So CBS's 2 Sunday afternoon games averaged 16.6 million viewers, up 21% from last year's opening weekend, according to the network that they announced earlier on today. And the NBC's total audience averaged 22.9 million viewers for its Thursday and Sunday night games, an 11% jump. The TV audience for football depends in part on the matchups on the field, and NBC definitely benefited from a close Thursday game between 2 of the sport's biggest draws, which is the Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Tom Brady at quarterback, and the Dallas Cowboys. CBS, part of Viacom CBS Inc., said one of its 2 games, Cleveland versus Kansas City, was its most watched opening weekend matchup since 2015, with an audience of 19.5 million. And Fox Corp and Walt Disney Company's ESPN haven't released their ratings as of yet. But the rebound is an early vindication of the media company's large long-term bets on the sport's popularity. So earlier this year, CBS, Comcast Corp's NBC, Fox, ESPN, and Amazon.com Incorporated agreed to spend $105 billion on NFL broadcast rights for another decade. While the sport is by far TV's biggest attraction, there were signs going into this season that viewers were tuning out. Last year's regular season NFL viewership fell 7%. But last year's decline could be blamed in part on factors related to the pandemic, including scheduling disruptions, making this season a better test of the NFL's long-term value as the draw for advertisers. So far, viewers are coming back. And I know that I was seeing people that were watching games in a couple of places that I was at and everything. But what about yourself? Did you notice that people seem to be back, whether they're at home or whether they're out at sports bars or other places? And it does look like they are engaged in watching the games again. At least that's the impression that I got. What is your thoughts? Do you think that we're going to definitely see people looking to go back, in some cases in the cities, if they are in those cities that have professional teams, even going to the arenas and watching the games? I know that at some point, and it's been a few years since I've been to one. I'm hoping that this is the year that I get to go to another Panthers game, because I know it's been a few years since the last time that I went to one down there in Charlotte. But I am hoping that this year during the season I get to make it to at least one, if not a couple of them. But what about yourself? Are you hoping to make it down to either Charlotte or probably the next closest cities are DC and Atlanta? But are you hoping to make it to a game and catch some of the play that we are able to catch within our region that we are part of?
Yeah, so my birthday is December the 23rd. I'm a Capricorn, and my fiance is was trying to do something for me, so she kind of had to spoil the surprise, but she had to ask me because she couldn't go, just say, yeah, I know you want to go to this game, but she just kind of, hey, do you want to go to a football game? I got some tickets from work. And I was like, I've never been to an NFL game. I watch it. I kind of okay watching it on TV because you get the cameras like really close to the players. But we are planning to go to a game this year for the first time. I'm excited, and it's football. Mark, it's the greatest sport to me, in my opinion, just opinion, on earth. It's live chess. It's live, and it's teamwork. And people work all week, and they don't mind spending their hard-earned money to go watch football. So I'm never going to be surprised by any week one numbers of viewership from NBC or CBS, because this is football. People love it. It's from some people bet on it. They just do it for bets. Some people play fantasy. Some people just love their team. It's 5 or 6 different avenues to love football. So football, I'm not surprised with the numbers that you told me, Mark.
I hear you. What was your reaction to some of the rookies? A lot of them didn't maybe get the play that they thought they were going to get. I know that some people saw Andy Dalton play most of the game that he was involved in, and they might have been expecting that Justin Fields was going to get more than the few snaps that he got and all of that. The same can be said for Trey Lance. Trey Lance took 4 snaps on Sunday against the Detroit Lions. One of those snaps featured the rookie quarterback's only pass and his first touchdown pass, which was a 5-yard strike to wide receiver Trent Sherfield. Lance had replaced starter Jimmy Garoppolo on the drive, and maybe Garoppolo would have added the touchdown to his stats had he remained into the game. But one of the things that they were asking was, what was the veteran's reaction to seeing his eventual successor, throw his first NFL touchdown, and he was among the first to celebrate with Lance on the sideline after the play. During the broadcast, Mark Sanchez, one of the Fox announcers calling the game, commented on the potential awkwardness of celebrating your young successor's accomplishment. That's not an easy hug to give, Sanchez said, while giving Garoppolo a lot of credit for the way he's handled the whole situation in Santa Clara. Garoppolo joined in KNPR's Murph and Mack show this morning and was asked about Sanchez's comment, and the 49ers quarterback offered an honest response. He's not wrong, Garoppolo said with a laugh. No, it is what it is type of situation. It's one of those situations where he had a good drive, marched down there, Cal called the package, and he's the head coach. So whatever he calls, it goes. It's just one of those things that you can only control what you can control. And I'm out there with my boys making the best of it, having a good time. And at the end of the day, we're playing football, trying to get a win. So wherever it takes, but it is what it is, Garoppolo ended up having a pretty good game. He completed 17 of his 25 pass attempts for 314 yards and a touchdown. Host Brian Murphy and Paul McCaffrey were pleasantly surprised by the quarterback's honesty in sharing his thoughts. So what are your thoughts about this? Because like I said, I did watch that game, and I did not that particular game, but I did see the game with Andy Dalton, and I did see Justin Fields sitting there on the sidelines. I think by the time I got to watching the game, they had already said that he had like maybe 2 or 3 touches or something like that, but not a lot of touches, but they did get him involved in the play. So what is your thoughts when these potential people that are going to take over the reins are not giving the reins right away. And I know that some of their fans are probably like, "Nah, that's the man. We need to get him in right now." But a lot of times they also have to learn the system and learn the system of their team before they are handed the reins and things along that line. But what are your thoughts as one that is a fan and maybe even there? Well, Dex ain't got no problem. He ain't got nobody competing for his job. He's gonna be there for a minute. But if there was somebody that was coming in that was a young upstart that wanted to take Dax's place, they would have to learn the system before your quarterback and your coach would even be willing to even think about those kind of thoughts. But I'd love to hear your thoughts, Terry, about what you think about some of these young guns that have not gotten their start. And I even know some fantasy players that are probably like, "Look, I'm going to start that man. I need him to go ahead and play."
Well, it's football. So let's talk about your quarterback for a second. You know, the head coach from the Patriots that got more Super Bowls than anybody else in history tried to replace Tom Brady. Tom Brady got 7 Super Bowls. He was going to get rid of. So listen, you're not above reproach when it comes to not in football. You're not. They're always going to draft a backup for you, but you have to beat that backup out every 40 years because they have to draft guys because it's a 7-round draft, so they're going to pick up guys to back up. But that doesn't mean anything. That shouldn't evolve you. So Jimmy is doing the right thing. He's focusing on himself. You can't worry about Trey Lance. They're going to draft Trey Lance. He got hurt. He can't say, "Well, this is not fair. I got hurt. Why are you drafting a guy behind me?" It's football. It's a young guy sport. But if you're a veteran, you just got to show them this is why I'm a veteran and just go out there and play and let the chips fall where they fall. But you just can't start a rookie quarterback because you drafted them. Look at some of the best quarterbacks in the league right now. Aaron Rodgers, how long did it take him to start? It took him 4 years. That's why he came out the gates when he got the starting Rams to play great because he knew the offense. He didn't have to come in and take his nicks or take his hits. Who else? Pat Mahomes. He sat behind Alex Smith for 1 year, and then he played the last game of the season of his rookie, and then they went in, and he went in like, you see Pat Mahomes, he ain't looked back. So it's nothing wrong with grooming a quarterback and letting them learn. That's what they're doing with Trey Lance. He can learn from Jimmy. Jimmy is a smart quarterback. He just can't stay healthy. So Trey Lance can learn a lot from watching Jimmy. And these guys, they are professionals, so they're going to always keep that relationship and be like, "Hey, man, I'm going to cheer for you too. But, we out here competing, but I'm not jealous of you. So we're going to be honest with each other, and we're going to kind of congratulate each other." That's being a professional athlete.
No, I definitely hear you, and I definitely agree with you on that. I was reading one of the articles in Bleachers Report, and they were actually talking about some trends that are going on, and one of them they mentioned, and I'm going to bring it up as well and get your thoughts, but they were saying that the NFL has long been known as a copycat league. Whenever a team finds success, rival coaches and general managers have little shame taking the strategy and employing it for themselves. So they gave examples of this, including the proliferation of the no-huddle offense after Tom Brady and Peyton Manning successfully ran them, the spread of the Wildcat formation after the Miami Dolphins, definitely confused a lot of their foes with it, and a hiring craze for young head coaches following the early success of Sean McVay with the Los Angeles Rams, I should say. But they say a new trend seems to be emerging around the league, and that's reuniting college quarterbacks with some of their top receivers. So they were talking about how this has been going on, and some examples they gave included Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith, Joe Burrow, and Jamar Chase, and Tagovailoa and Jalen Waddle. So all 3 of these connections were completed early in the 2021 draft. So they said 5 of these 6 players were early first-round draft choice, with Hurts a second-round selection by the Philadelphia Eagles in 2020 being the lone exception. And they said the Cincinnati Bengals have the most highly drafted players of the group, getting Burrows at number 1 in 2020 before taking his LSU teammate Chase at number 5 this year. And the Dolphins aren't far behind, having drafted Alabama's Tagovailoa number 5 2 years ago before taking Waddle at number 6 back in April. And Smith was the final wideout to be reunited with his former college quarterback this year after the Eagles traded up to number 10 to secure the Crimson Tide's star services. So far, the decisions to reunite these star players seem nothing short of brilliant. So although each tandem has just played 1 game together, all 3 connected for touchdown passes, and all 3 of their teams won in week 1, a promise and development for this emerging tactic. So I'm surprised that we didn't see more of this in the past. And they actually said that while pairing together college teammates at the pro level isn't a brand new concept, never before have so many high-profile players had this level of familiarity with a former teammate coming into the NFL. One would have to go back to the early 50s, that was even before I was born, to find an example of players this highly regarded coming into the NFL and having immense success together. So quarterback Tobin Rote and wide receiver Billy Houghton, members of the 1949 Rice Owls, were drafted in the first round by the Green Bay Packers in 1950 and 51, respectively, and the duo went on to set a still standing record of 26 touchdowns together in the NFL. No other collegiate connection has combined for more than 16 NFL touchdowns. There are only a handful of modern examples involving college teammates having some modicum of success together in the pros. The Indianapolis culture responsible for perhaps the most notable, drafting a pair of Stanford prospects in quarterback Andrew Luck and tight end Kobe Flinner back in 2012. So one of the things I got to ask you, and then we might get into some other sports as well, is are you surprised that this is not more common? Because, I mean, we oftentimes follow college football, and a lot of times there are great combinations that go on together and everything. And I know that, you got to do the strategy of making sure that you get maybe your player one and then you get the other one that you want at whatever the other pick is and things of that nature. And I know it can be difficult and a crapshoot, but I was just wondering, are you surprised that more folks don't try to get people that are from the same team, particularly when there are such powerhouse teams out there as Alabama, Clemson, back in the day, Miami and Florida State and some others as well. But you got all these powerhouses that are, really coming together as a cohesive unit in the college level. I'm surprised that more of the GMs aren't trying to target these people on a regular basis to bring that combination to the pro level. But what are your thoughts, Terry?
Well, the GMs always wanted that type of camaraderie, but what quarterback and what wide receiver was together that was good enough to play in the league? That's very few times that's happened. But what's going on there? Alabama is a powerhouse. I'm talking about 15, 16 NFL players, different ages from a freshman to a senior. So you can get that. You can do that. Same thing with LSU. Joe Burrow drafted. He got sophomore, freshman receivers. They get time. It's time for them to go to the league. They get drafted. You got a chance to pick that guy up. He's really good. You pick it in the top 10, pick him up. So that's what's going on. It's just top teams that have really good college teams. Like you got a great quarterback, you got great receivers, you got great running backs. And so sometimes you're going to be able to get draft guys that can play on the same team. I actually didn't like the Jamar Chase move. I thought that they I think they just tried to get a big time receiver. I thought they should have got somebody to help protect Joe Burrow. So I didn't think they had to get Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow just because they played together and they were really good together. But it's working out for the first game. I don't think it's not a strategy. I think it's just it just happens. I'm going to draft the guy that I think can win games for my franchise. Oh, okay. His receiver, it's time for him to get drafted. Okay, let me pick him up. He's in the second round. Or I got a top 10 pick. He's in the top 10. Let me pick him up. So I think it's more coincidental than just say, oh, I'm targeting the guy because I know they got a lot of camaraderie together.
I hear you. One of the things I know we've talked about it a couple of times on this whole show and everything is this whole concept of whether COVID was going to have an impact or not. And it looks like it's already having an impact. But I just want to know your thoughts because we did find out that 6 New Orleans Saints assistant coaches have tested positive for COVID-19. NFL media and ESPN reported earlier today. One player and a nutritionist also tested positive, according to the reports. Saint coach Sean Payton said before the season that the entire coaching staff had been vaccinated, and NFL policy states that the team will be in the mitigation protocol in the aftermath of the positive test. This protocol is where daily testing of all players and Tier 1 and Tier 2 staff is required regardless of vaccination status. Under regular NFL COVID-19 protocols, vaccinated players are only tested weekly. There's also a mandatory masking indoors for all players and all Tier 1 and Tier 2 staff, regardless of vaccination status, with the team having grab-and-go meals at the team facility. So it does look like it's impacted at least one team in New Orleans, and the Saints have been practicing in Texas as they wait to return to New Orleans in the aftermath of Hurricane Ida. New Orleans did beat the Green Bay Packers on Sunday, 38-3 in Jacksonville, Florida, and the Saints will play the Carolina Panthers on this coming Sunday. But what are your thoughts about this idea that there might even be still some impacts of COVID going on, and it might impact some of our games and desires for games as well? But I just wanted some of your thoughts about that, and if this is something that you're worried about, even maybe for that game that you want to go to and everything.
Nope, I'm not worried about it. I took a trip to Vegas. I went on vacation about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I had an amazing time. I seen the stadium and everything. And listen, they drilled from the airport to the Vegas casinos to the tours. They was on you about your mask. It's COVID time. It's just what's gonna happen. So even if Dak Prescott, I don't want to speak nothing into the ether, but even if Dak Prescott or Ezekiel Elliott or Jerry Jones or my head coach for my Dallas Cowboys or whatever they called it, I'm not gonna be angry. We all know what's going on. So just try to do it, contain it, know what's going on, quarantine, get over with, come back as soon as you can, and let's play football. It's that simple. I'm not gonna. Oh man, this is not fair. My guy got COVID. Why? Why would you do that? I went through that. I had a little bit of that last year with the first 2 or 3 weeks. I got over it. It's just part of the game plan now. Even if you've been vaccinated, you can catch it again. That's fine, right? It's all about the containment, where we only have 1 to 2 people getting it. We don't want the whole team getting it. That's a problem. That's what I don't want to happen. And I feel like the NFL, they have hired a lot of smart people to keep people, track people, where they've been, who they've been around. So I'm not worried about it. It's just something we're gonna have to face.
And speaking of things we got to face, another positive, we mentioned the gentleman that was the first, I think, openly gay player or something like that. But we had another breakthrough in the history of women. So Maya Shaka became the first African-American woman to officiate an NFL game, and that was actually done on Sunday. She became the first African-American woman to ever officiate an NFL game. So that was another move in a positive direction. So we were glad to welcome Maya there. And it was actually a game that involved the Carolina team and all of that. So it was the game between the Panthers and their opponent, the Jets, and everything. And I love her quote. She says, "When I step on the field for the first time as an NFL official, it's going to be a proud moment." She was saying how it's a proud moment for her family, it's a proud moment for my community, and a proud moment for other people that she's involved with as well. So when she stepped out there in that game, that was some great history that was done in the field of women's history. Even though the league was founded more than 100 years ago, the NFL has only had 3 women work as on-the-field officials. So definitely she's joined the ranks of some other people that are done that work as well, but from other parts of the culture. But definitely, hopefully, we'll be seeing more women coming out there and doing this kind of work on a regular basis. Because like I said, she's the first African-American woman and the first sister to actually get out there and have that opportunity. So what are your thoughts about us seeing some women in some non-traditional roles, even in the NFL? So definitely, like I said, usually we see gentlemen in the those outfits that we don't always like, and sometimes we yell at them because they give the wrong calls and everything. But by the way, she was saying it was a proud moment also for herself and for her students and coworkers as well. That was the other part of the quote that I did not catch and everything, but I just wanted to add that in there as something that happened for her on the afternoon of Sunday. So about 2 days ago and all of that. And I was also going to mention the names of the other women. Sarah Thomas was one of them that had that permanent kind. She was the first permanent female game official, along with I believe there was another name, and I'm trying to get that one. It looks like that was another S name, so I'm trying to see if I can pull that one up really quickly. But just as I'm trying to figure out that other lady's name, because I do want to give out the shout outs to those that deserve them. But while I'm doing that, what are your thoughts? And if I see the name come up, I may interrupt and give you a little bit of the other person's name.
That's fine. Ladies, come show yourself to approve. You can do anything. I listen, Mark, I wouldn't be surprised if the ladies referees were better than the guys. I don't know why gender matter about refereeing. Now, playing the football game, I'm not gonna sit there and say a woman should be playing against a man in football. We all understand that, right? But referee, why not? I should think they should be doing all sports. It don't matter what your sex is or your color. I'm not gonna be disingenuous to any of the bias things. If you can get the job done, I'm about getting the job done. I don't care who you are or where you come from. If you good, let's go. I love sports. I love the competitive. Ladies, come out there and show the men that, hey, I can call this game better than you can.
I hear you. And it looks like that other person's name I'm going to put up. It was Sarah Thomas was one of them, and then the other one was Shannon Easton. So Shannon Easton and all of that were the other two that have had this record, kind of like groundbreaking. That's what I was looking for. Groundbreaking kind of background. So yeah, we got to give them their shout outs as well. By the way, Bill Bradford was popping in and he was saying, "How about my Steelers?" So he's a big time Steelers fan. So Bill Bradford was popping in and saying, "How about those Steelers?" So apparently he is a Steelers fan and was definitely saying, "How about those Steelers?" So apparently he is quite happy with his Steelers and definitely glad that they did all of that they did in that regard.
Yeah, that was a lock. That was the lock of the week for me. They gave them. So when I was in Vegas, I placed this bet. They gave the Steelers +8. I said, "Oh my God, this is easy." I knew automatically the Steelers is going to beat Buffalo. Steelers got a really great defense. They got Mike Thomas. He's a great Mike Tomlin. Excuse me. He's a great coach. So I knew that. So that was the money game. So I wish I would have got an opportunity to talk about that with the folks to let them know. Listen, if you're a betting guy, go put your money on the Steelers. I like the Steelers again this week too.
Okay, that's a good thing. By the way, we were talking about the crowds back at the NFL. Well, apparently the crowds were also back at the U.S. Open, and definitely it looks like the young stars gave them a gave them a whole show because a lot of people were not getting the folks that they thought were going to winning because definitely, a lot of people had already written Djokovic as being the one that was going to win the title, but Medvedev we had some other thought on that, and so he actually won. And the same with Raducanu, and so we saw some new people coming in there and everything, and definitely giving a show. As a matter of fact, Emma Raducanu's victory came as a qualifier, and she was a qualifier in the game. And Daniel Medvedev, his upset win showed the game is changing. So definitely we're seeing more and more people that are going there. As a matter of fact, Djokovic sat silent in his chair after being thoroughly outplayed by definitely Danielle and everything in the U.S. Open final on Sunday, a match he had suggested maybe the most important of his life as he chased the Grand Slam. His immediate emotion and defeat was not pain, anger, or sorrow, but simple relief. I was glad it was over because the build-up for this tournament and everything that mentally and emotionally I had to deal with throughout the tournament in the last couple of weeks was just a lot. So, he took that L and looks like he took it fairly well and all of that. So it was not unlike Djokovic to use it as motivation for a searing run at the Australian Open, and his dominance is likely to continue. But definitely looks like he's going to have some other opponents that'll be trying to upset his run to get that 21st title that he wants, because I think that there are 3 of them tied at 20 victories and all of that. And definitely it's going to be interesting to see how things go in that regard. So in the absence of Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal, each day in New York produced a new batch of 5-set matches, 36 in total. Along the way, there was a breakout run from another 18-year-old star, Carlos Alcaraz, who toppled Stefanos Tsitsipas in the 3rd round. And then we saw some other qualifiers that were knocking people out as well. So looks like some of these young guns are saying, hey, wait a minute, just because y'all are the established stars doesn't mean that we don't have something to say about who's going to win or not win, and that we might even have some shocking victories in our own hands and everything. As a matter of fact, they said that Emma Raducanu managed to produce one of the most shocking runs in recent years by entering the U.S. Open with so little experience at the top level, becoming the first player to clear the field from the qualifying draw and do it in all without dropping a set. During the trophy ceremony, the 18-year-old opened her speech by expressing her hope that she would face Fernandez, just a few weeks older and recently turned 19, in many more finals to come. A smile lit up across Fernandez's faces, who nodded. Both showed throughout the fortnight they are special players with well-rounded weapons athleticism, and on-court intelligence that can set them up well for life. So it looks like they're going to be doing really well, and that they might be like some of the new blood out there. So there's some new blood in the tennis world and all of that. And I'm just I don't know about you, Terry, but some of these folks are making a whole lot of money, and they're making money that's like beyond my comprehension and things of that nature. Because this young teenage star and everything, she is set to receive, are you ready to hear this? $2.5 million from her record-breaking U.S. Open victory, a sum more than 8 times her previous career earnings. So she's a high school graduate. That's right. She is a high school graduate, the 18-year-old high school graduate. Wild audience over the weekend when she beat Leylah Fernandez to claim that title that I was talking about. So, and she became only the first British woman to earn the Grand Slam title in more than 40 years, but also the youngest winner since Maria Sharapova at Wimbledon way back in 2004. But yeah, they said that $2.5 million is substantially more than the $303,000 she has so far earned in her career. So definitely, I don't know about you, but I'm thinking that, and by the way, she's of Chinese Romanian heritage, but I'm thinking that those lucrative sponsorship deals and endorsements and everything else, I mean, what do you think? Maybe a tenth of that or 100th of that you'd be happy with?
I'd be happy with $10,000.
I know that's right. He's like, I'd be happy with 10,000, much less the kind of money that those folks are talking about.
Exactly. So
he's like,
yeah, I'm so happy. I'm so happy for. I mean, just imagine that. Though, Mark, I always said this: if I was a professional athlete, I don't think I could sleep probably the first year. Like, and the reason why I'm saying that is because the first time I get my check and I look in there and I see $800,000 or $500,000, I'm not gonna be asleep. I'm gonna be high off the money, right? I'm gonna be like, okay, yeah, this is serious. So to me that's a great feeling to go play a sport that's for like it's kind of for fun, right? Because it's a sport and you get paid to do it. So I think that's I'm so happy for her that she getting to live a dream out.
Yeah, it's great that they get to live their dreams. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. I did say that in our little promo that I was going to see what was going on in the world of baseball and in the world of basketball and maybe even the world of soccer, because I know you got to get to your clients and everything in terms of consulting. But I did want to see what kind of baseball news we've got and if there's any NBA news. Oh, that's not good. We had a baseball umpire that was hit in the face with a errant throw during the Cardinals-Mets game. So that's not something that we like to have happen, but we actually know that happened not that long ago here in this area, that one of the players was hit in the face, and as I understand, they are been recovering and are doing well. I'm not sure if they're still on the team or if they're not, but yeah, they said an Major League Baseball umpire was hit in the face by an errant throw during a game Monday night between the New York Mets and the St. Louis Cardinals. Met shortstop Francisco Lindor hit a liner toward Cardinal shortstop Edmundo Sosa in the bottom of the second inning. Sosa moved to his left to corral the ball and whirled to throw it toward the first base. The ball, however, never reached the first base and instead hit umpire Junior Valentine in the head. Valentine appeared to be okay after the incident, and he must be a tough guy because he stayed in the game. He actually stayed in the game, and it's only his second season as a Major League Baseball umpire. So, we're saying that the umpires can also get involved in some kind of skirmishes and can take some hurts in the games as well. But yeah, I don't know about you, but if I get hit by a baseball, I think I'm taking myself out of the game, and I think I'm gonna call it a day. But maybe that's exactly. That I ain't got that kind of toughness. So maybe you would stick in there, Terry. But if you're hit by a baseball, those things can move pretty fast. I think I'm saying it's a day for me. I might come back the next day, but that day I'm done. What about you?
Hey, I always thought baseball was more dangerous than football. I mean, I played baseball when I was young, but to me, getting hit with a baseball in the head is way more dangerous than getting hit by a 225-pound guy. That's just my perspective on it. But yeah, I'm no tough guy. If I get hit in the head, I'm calling it a day. If I'm okay, thank God, right? Because it's very dangerous with baseballs, getting hit in the head with a baseball.
Yep, definitely. And then they were talking about, and I remember Robin Yount because he actually played for the Milwaukee Brewers, but apparently there was a whole song made about his brother, and it was the article I'm reading is called "The Remarkable Story of Robin Yount's brother Larry," and it says, "My name is Larry Yount, and my story doesn't rise like a ripple on the tide. Late at night, I think what might have been, what might have been." And the first time that Larry Yount heard that song, supposedly based on his life, his wife said he shed some tears. It didn't matter that the recording artist took some creative liberties and jumped to the kind of conclusion that probably anyone would have, which is the song tells the story of a young pitcher getting his first shot at the major leagues, getting injured while he's warming up on a big league mound, and then never reaching the majors again. The song tells the story of the regret and heartache that followed Yount throughout his life. He couldn't go a minute without thinking about what could have been. Maybe he could have been an all-star. Maybe he would have been a washout. Who knows? Maybe he could have been a Hall of Famer like his brother Robin. Sure, some of the what ifs crossed his mind, but they didn't stay long. If you know anything about Larry Yount, you know he lives life without regret. So the article says that he was 21 when he heard the Astrodome public address announcer J. Fred Duckett boom his name over the stadium loudspeaker. His name was written on the lineup card. It was official. He was a big leaguer. That was back in September 15th of 1971, and there were only a few fans there to watch the Astros meet the Atlanta Braves in that particular game. But definitely looks like he had a short-lived career and all of that, but he definitely and even became the subject of that song and everything. But he did say that he decided to pull himself out of the game, and that was that. Never in my wildest dreams did he think it would be the end of his career when he was pulled from that game way back when and everything. But definitely it's interesting when we hear of some of these stories of people that are maybe one of them goes on to fame and fortune and the other one doesn't and all of that. So it's just interesting when you hear people that make those kind of connections and maybe they don't have the kind of success that their siblings do or even that their other people do in that regard. So it's just interesting. And like I said, there's a whole article that was done in the Major League Baseball website. So there's actually a whole article, and I just read parts of it, but if folks want to go and catch that, it's just interesting getting that kind of perspective from different people and all of that in that sense. So definitely that's going on in the world of baseball. Try to see if there's anything else that I want to bring up in that sport. And of course, I do know that my Brewers are still in the first place, and hopefully they'll maintain that as they get ready to head into the playoffs. And then hopefully, who knows, maybe the World Series, even though that's been forever in the wish list. So maybe this is the year that it actually happens and we get some good news in that regard. Hey, I had a very interesting conversation. I'm going to go look up some NFL news, but I had a very interesting conversation. It's based on something that we talked about. I had the pleasure of meeting a gentleman that played at that event I was talking about for the radio station, but he played with Michael Jordan. So he knows Michael, he knows Mitch Kupchak, he knows a lot of the other folks, as he put it. Even if you know him and you played with him, catching up with Michael is next to impossible. He said he had a better shot of catching up with the Obamas. And that was his exact quote and everything. But he also reflected on some of the games that he played, including some of the including the championship game. And that was Linwood. And hopefully I'll get Linwood to come on our show and talk about his playing career and all that. And he was relatively, for putting it in mildness, relatively short. I think he's like 6'1", which is short for basketball players, even back in the 80s, college days and all of that. But definitely he talked about some of his experiences. He talked about Dean. He definitely talked about even the business kind of connections and how I want to say he said that LeBron James, brought his crew with him, his crew from Cleveland, and he paid just about all of those people for their college education, but he also has them all making individually around $350,000 per man. So I'm going like, I might have to get some new respect from LeBron James if he's paying his people in those kind of salaries, because they were his boys back then and they are still his boys even to this day. So definitely it's good to hear that kind of positivity coming from a person that knows these players on a personal level.
Yeah, so Mark, just to go piggyback off of what you said, do you know what he did? Like, LeBron was in high school and he seen, like, if I'm not mistaken, 3 guys, they were African-American guys that were really smart. And he came up to him, like, this may be his junior year, and was like, listen, would y'all mind being my manager, my agent, and my business partner? And they was like, yeah, I mean, we know you good. You got a chance to go to the NBA, but you want to hire us now? He was like, yeah. So they was like, okay. So he didn't pay him, but as soon as he got his deal, he paid them guys. And those guys right now are on the Fortune 500 magazine. They are, what's his name? I can't think of the name, but you can look it up. Those three guys. Rich Paul was one of them. I think he made like $300 million last year by being like an agent for other guys. So he set those guys and their families up for eternity money. Like they are set up. So LeBron has done a lot of great things out here, setting up those families and giving people opportunity to do things that they probably would have never ever done. So yes, I just want to piggyback off of that.
I hear you. There's some speculation about some trades because NBA is about to get ready to get into the trade season and all of that because they said that none of this can happen till the start of a training camp on September 28th. But one of the articles I was reading in Bleacher Report was speculating on some trades that they thought might be worth something. I'm gonna tell you what they said, and then you tell me if you think these are trades even worth considering. But in the case of the Chicago Bulls and the Atlanta Hawks, they were saying, hey, maybe Cam Reddish for Kobe White. So they were thinking that maybe that could be something that could help both teams. So they were saying maybe Cam Reddish for Kobe White as a potential trade. They were also thinking in the sense of the Phoenix Suns and the San Antonio Spurs, maybe something like the San Antonio Spurs give up Thaddeus Young and the Suns give up Dario Saric and Jalen Smith. So that's another trade that they were speculating about. And they were also speculating about Marvin Bagley III, who is over there at Sacramento Kings, that he would come to the Houston Rockets. And in return, the Sacramento Kings would get DJ Augustine, Daniel House Jr., and a 2024 second round pick. Because we know everybody's trying to build their teams in order to match up against the Lakers and some of the other powerhouse teams. They were also saying that maybe the New York Knicks would get from the Orlando Magic players like Terrence Robbins would come from the Magic, and the Knicks would give up Obi Toppin and Kevin Knox III. Of course, the Knicks would also get a 2022 second round pick. And looks like they're saying that they would get 2 second round picks possibly because they have it written down twice and everything. And there were a couple of other interesting trades. I'm trying to go down here and see what they're speculating. Oh, this is one that's interesting. The Warriors and the Wizards. So they were thinking maybe the Golden State Warriors could get from the Wizards Bradley Beal and Kyle Kuzma. And what the Wizards would get would be Andrew Wiggins, James Wiseman, Jonathan Kuminga, and a 22 first round pick. Top 5 is what they are protected and all of that. So there's some interesting things that they are putting out there. Oh, this would be a very interesting one. And I'll leave it on this note and then hear if you got any thoughts about some of those that they threw out. But, we've talked about Ben Simmons, and they're saying that maybe the Portland Trailblazers should receive Ben Simmons. And in return, the Philadelphia 76ers would get CJ McCollum and 2 future first round picks. So, well, that's definitely going to be an interesting one if the 76ers get CJ McCollum and they give up Ben Simmons. So that's just some speculation about some possible trades that could come on later on in this month going into October. Did any of those that I mentioned that Bleacher Report was putting out there, did any of them resonate and that you could actually see being real possibilities and all of that?
The Ben Simmons one. Not because he's just a big profile name, but that makes sense. He don't want to be there. He's mad. I don't know why he's mad. I guess sometimes people can't take criticism, but you wasn't shooting the ball. You just wasn't shooting the ball. So they willing to keep you, but you don't want to be there anymore because they called you out to the media. So I think them picking up CJ McCollum and trading Ben Simmons to there, maybe that keeps Damian Lillard in Portland. Because he has a counterpart, somebody that's going to feed him the ball, a better defensive player. And maybe that takes Philadelphia into the Eastern Conference Finals, where they fell a little bit short last year. So, I think that it could be a nice trade.
I hear you. What do you think about the idea? Because I'm reading one of these articles, and this is actually an interesting idea. But apparently the NBA is discussing an end-of-the-season tournament. So that means a tournament that takes place, if I'm reading this correctly, within the middle of the season. And it's going to have a $1 million per player prize pool. And the idea is still in the concept stage. And there's currently no timeline as to when it will be implemented. But in recent years, we've seen a number of changes to the NBA schedule. Some have been temporary changes because of what was happening with the pandemic, while others like the play-in tournament are permanent additions. Looking ahead, they're saying there could even be more development in the years to come. So on Monday, the league's competition committee met to discuss a number of topics during their annual offseason meeting. Among them is a potential in-season tournament with a prize pool of $1 million per year, according to Shams Charania of The Athletic. So definitely that could be very interesting. And like I said, there's no timeline yet as to how this would happen, but apparently it's been floated around for a few years now, but nothing has been finalized. And I'm just trying to figure out how you're going to stop the play in the middle in order to have a tournament and whether that would even impact the season. But apparently the WNBA this past summer debuted an in-season competition called the Commissioner's Cup that largely failed as an initiative. In order to avoid including extra games on the schedule, the league made certain regular season games cup games, and after the first half of the season, the two teams with the best record in the cup games met in the championship. It was confusing for both fans and players, many of whom didn't understand the format and didn't seem to care. Figuring out the logistics and the format will be the primary focus for what they're trying to do with the NBA. So I'm trying to figure out how you're even going to pull that off an in-season tournament and all of that. What are your thoughts about that? I mean, I'm a big fan of the tournament that they do in the end of the season, which is the one that they do. They sometimes have NBA players and college players and things of that nature. And, they have that Elam Endon and all of that. So I've actually participated. And I think one year I even won with my team and everything. But, that's the basketball tournament is what it's called, the TBT. But that's usually, at an off time. There isn't much college ball going on. There's definitely not that much of pro basketball going in the sense of like championship play. I think that there may be some season games going on during the time that the Elam ended and the tournament and the basketball tournament is taking place. But it's at a nice time around summer and everything. And like I said, the Eagles, my basketball team won not this past one, but the one before. But what do you think? What are your thoughts about this possibility of bringing in some sort of play in the middle of the season as a tournament?
It sounds like it's an alternative for the All-Star weekend.
Right.
If that's okay, I can see that. So All-Star weekend, instead of having an All-Star game, if you wanted to let the players pick 3-on-3s and let them play all week and see who win that championship and they win $1 million, that sounds like fun. But just to do some type of tournament outside of the NBA schedule, that don't make sense. That's wear and tear on people's body for no reason. So, but All-Star weekend, it makes sense. So I don't know. I got to just see about what happens, what comes with that, because I don't understand how they're going to implement that.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out and what they do in that regard. I did say I was going to bring up at least a little bit of soccer news, and then we'll get ready to get on out of here. But definitely, it looks like everything, analytics is playing its role in soccer as well. So in 2011, a software developer named Sarah Rudd got fed up with conventional soccer stats. It was easy to count how many passes a player attempted and completed, but not all passes are equal. We know passing percentage is a terrible metrics for evaluating how good of a passer you are, she told me. What were those actions really worth? So at a conference at Harvard this fall, Rudd, who started an analytic blog after talking to Seattle Sounders owner Adrian Hutner about Moneyball, but for soccer, presented a better way to value action. She split the game into 37 different states, determined by factors like ball location and defensive organization, and calculated how likely each state was to eventually lead to a goal or a turnover. Each time a player moved the ball from one state to another, such as by dribbling up the wing or playing a line breaking pass, he got credit for the change in his team's chance of scoring. Suddenly, a passing wasn't just complete or incomplete, it had an expected goal value. The concept Rudd hit on is something called possession value, and it's an important building block of soccer analytics. Over the last few years, as data has become more widely available, more people have started trying to measure the vast majority of the games that happen in between the shots. We've seen various approaches to the same problem. Rudd was curious about how does any action on the pitch change the likelihood of scoring, and for some models, conceding. So it looks like there's some effort in this particular methodology to do some gamifying. So it looks like this could be a whole nother betting process that could even take place within the whole betting industry. So instead of betting on who's going to score, maybe you bet on this system. And it definitely sounds like there is some serious gamifying going on in that sense. And we do know that people do love to place their bets, whether they're bets on the team or whether they're bets on other things as well. So that's interesting news in that sense. I don't know what your thoughts are about sports just in general being gamified. And the other thing I was going to bring up quickly about soccer, just because we are a global network and everything, was it looks like a major star of soccer is back, and apparently he's back in fine form, and that is, of course, the legendary Cristiano Ronaldo. So it says that just like that, everything was exactly as it used to be, as if nothing had ever changed, as if he had never been away. Cristiano Ronaldo had scored again. Manchester United was winning again. The fans were exulting again, and he was home at last, and so were they. So a lot of people know that he had tremendous success on that particular team. And after some trades, he's back at that team. And apparently, at least in the opening game, he's back to scoring goals and making a lot of noise, and definitely having his fans glad that he is back in a place that he developed a lot of fans at. So it's good to see that he's back, and apparently the fans are glad to see that he is back as well. So true legend of soccer is back at a team that considered him one of their heroes in the past. So I'm sure that they are quite glad that he is back in their midst and all of that. So that is just a wonderful thing to see happen in that regards. So definitely, I know we're going to bounce on out of here because, like I said, I know you've got your thing to do, and I've actually got a couple of things that I need to do as well, including another show on this network. But really quickly, I was going to see how I did on the pick'ems, because I definitely did, and you helped me pick them last time. We're going to see how I did really quickly on that lineup and everything. So we're going to go into week one and view my picks. Still got the ones from last time, but in the pool results for week one, I did not do as good as my brother, because apparently my brother picked 11 successful picks. So he got 11 out of the mini games and everything of that nature. We did not do good this time around, Terry. We only got 7 right, and there were some other people that got 6 right, including the commissioner. But no, we still got some work to do, and I might have to do some better picking for week 2 or whatever. So I might have to go into week 2 with you and everything. But yeah, my brothers, I wish that MF would. He's got 11 right, and the Chronic has 11 right as well. And then there are 3 players that got 10 right in the games. And then there's people with a whole host of people with 9, 8, and then we fall in that group of people that got 7 right. And there's a whole batch of people that got 7 right as well. So we're 4 behind the champion right now, which is my brother and whoever is behind the Chronic. And I don't remember off the top of my head who that is. So let's just go to week 2 real quick and see if we're going to stick with the picks that we had last time. We're going to make some changes. I'm still liking the Washington football team over the New York Giants. I'm still liking the Indianapolis Colts over the Los Angeles Rams. I'm not going to change that. I'm still liking the Bills against the Dolphins. I'm not too sure. What do you think? Should I change that one? Because I had the Bills winning that as one of the away games, but yeah, I'm not sure because the Dolphins actually.
I would go, if they Dolphins are at home and they in Florida with that hot weather, I would say Dolphins. That's just
you would go with the Dolphins.
Yeah, because they at home.
They're playing at home, right? So I'm going with the Dolphins. So we're going to switch that one. We're going with the Dolphins. Then we got the Patriots at the Jets. Patriots I've not been impressed with, so and the Jets are playing at home, so I'm going to keep the Jets. We got the Cleveland Browns at the Houston Texans. I know that my friend said that he was disappointed in that loss that they took to KC. I just don't see them losing twice, so I think I'll stick with Cleveland. It's a home game. I got the Denver Broncos against the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's my first away victory so far. I think I'm going to keep that one. Still got to go with the strong Steelers. I do have to agree with Homeboy that was a good pick in terms of week 1. San Francisco 49ers against the Eagles. I think I'll keep that one. I'm not too sure about this one. And my brother might be disappointed, but I don't even know if he picked his own team. But what do you think about the Bengals against the Bears? I have the Bears, and I'm leaning toward the Bears, but the Bengals did give a lot of points. So you think I should switch that one? Or do you?
I'll stay with the Bears.
Stay with the Bears. I'm staying with the Bears. The Saints against the Panthers. It's a home game for the Panthers. They won their first game, but they're playing the Saints. that's a difficult one. But I'm gonna stick with the Panthers just because I'm feeling contrary, and the same with the Vikings, just because that's my boys and everything. The Buccaneers against the Falcons, yeah, Tom Brady. He's gonna do what Tom Brady does. I'm not sure. Your Cowboys. I'm gonna stick with the Cowboys.
Okay.
The Tennessee Titans against the Seattle Seahawks. I had the Seahawks winning that game, but Tennessee might be good, but that's a home game for the Seattle Seahawks. I think I'm going to stick with that one. I may disappoint, and I'm going to ask your opinion about this. Originally, I had the Ravens beating Kansas City, but that defense does look a little weak. And even though Dean and them boys would like them not to go down 0-2, I'm thinking Kansas City might actually get that victory. Or should I stick with the Ravens the way that I originally had?
You got to go with Kansas City.
I'm going with
Ravens
Kansas City.
can win it. The Ravens can win it, but if you betting on it, I'm going.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Kansas City. I think I'm gonna make a switch there, and I'm gonna stick with the Packers because they're playing the Lions, and it's at Packers. So maybe just one switch, maybe two, and then I'm gonna save the picks, and hopefully we'll do better than the 7 we did last time. So we'll see how we do the next time around. We did make a couple of adjustments, and we'll see whether we do better next time, and then we'll report on that, and then we'll go into week 3 and everything. So we'll see whether we bounce back and maybe can catch up at least make a run at my brother since he's ahead of us by 4 right now. So we'll try to make a run at him. I know that we went a little bit over than what I was expecting and what you were expecting as well, but we get into these long dialogues and conversations. But any final thoughts, anything you want to share with people? And I know you're going to run over and talk to your clients and try to get them a win, but any final sports thoughts that you want to share just in general?
Don't drop people too soon. Give them a chance to work their kinks out. So give them at least 3 weeks before you drop them. Because the biggest mistake you can do in fantasy is dropping a player because you got mad because he gave you a 0 or something. So just give him 3 weeks at least.
Unless you do
follow me at Fantasy Goods. Also follow me at Fantasy Goods Sports at YouTube. All formats, like all on platforms, social media from Facebook, Instagram. It's Fantasy Goods Sports as you see on the screen. Also, I offer consultations if you need help with fantasy. And all you got to do is hit me up at fantasygoodssports@gmail.com. And also, I have an OnlyFans, which is I do football content there. And you can follow me. That's for $10 a month and subscribe there. I would appreciate it. That's Fantasy Goods Sports at OnlyFans.
Okay. The only thing I was going to add to that is if they want to, they can definitely send, and I'm going to let you send it as well. But if they want to support us in this effort, they can definitely reach out to my Cash App, which is $ Mark Lee 1962. So if anybody wants to go in there and make a donation, all donations are kindly accepted. And if you got a Cash App that you want to drop in there and tell them what it is, I will gladly do that and give you that opportunity to do that now. But before I do that, the other thing I was going to mention is I think I can go ahead and drop Christian Blake because I don't think he's going to do anything. And that was that crazy pick that I made. So we can go ahead and drop him. I'll save the rest of it, maybe drop them later. But I might go ahead and drop him to pick up another weapon or something along those lines. But I agree with you. Generally, to wait 2 or 3 weeks or at least maybe 3 or 4 weeks. But in the case of drafting somebody that is not going to do anything and probably isn't even going to make the team really, I think I'll go ahead and drop him.
Yes, I agree. And guys, like I said, my Cash App is Fantasy Good Sports, as you see. Just put the money sign in front of it and put Fantasy Good Sports in. I'm Fantasy Good Sports on all platforms.
Sounds great. Well, we're getting ready to get on here with that same 30-second ticker that gets us on in here and everything of that nature. So glad to have this great conversation. And we'll be back next week to talk more sports, both real sports and fantasy sports. And we'll see how we're doing. Hopefully next week I'll be 2-0. But if I'm 1-1, I won't cry about it. At least I'm not going to be having a losing record. But the goal is to be 2-0. So hopefully I'll be 2-0 next week. And we'll come back with more exciting news about that. But we'll see what Tom Brady and the rest of the crew do for me on this coming week and make sure that I got my Thursday players lined up and definitely the ones, because I find that sometimes people forget those players on the Thursday game and then they're scrambling trying to put in their players because they forgot to put in the Thursday lineup, folks. So definitely look at your schedule, make sure you got your Thursday players in and do that because too often we forget. And the same thing as I've told Terry before, if you're doing those pick'ems, try to get them in, even if you got to change them like I was doing earlier today, try to get them at least several weeks in advance because that way you're ahead of the game and not behind the game. Because too often, as I mentioned to Terry last week and the week before, you'll be sitting there going like, how come I'm 20 points down? Oh, that's right. I didn't put in anybody that week. No wonder I'm down that far.
Yep, I agree 100%.
So on that note, here's the 30-second ticker, and we're going to get on out of here.